This is the Torino Tipi style hot tent from the company KingCamp. If you're interested in hearing more about it, keep watching. Before we get started, a couple things. First, I'd like to thank the company KingCamp for sending out the Torino hot tent so that I could share it with you. And now to the obvious. Mark, why are you doing this in your backyard and why are you doing it in the middle of summer? Okay, a couple of reasons. Number one, maybe many of my viewers already know this, there is a complete woods travel ban here in Nova Scotia, meaning that you cannot go into the woods for any reason due to the extreme fire risk. In fact, there have been a number of forest fires, even one in my beloved camping area where I do like to go. So the woods are off limit to me for right now. And the second reason, and the reason I'm doing it now during the summer, is because I am not sure when I'm going to be able to do a better review of it. I have some surgery coming up soon, and that's going to put me off the map for a little while during the winter. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do an outdoor winter camp out in this tent during the coming winter, but that remains to be seen. So those are the reasons why I am doing the review of it now. Now, it's not really a true review. How can I do a true review if I haven't actually slept in it during the winter? But what I can do is I have had it set up a number of times. I've actually slept out here in the backyard with it. But what I can do is share with you all the features of it, my thoughts on it so far, and then when I get an opportunity then to use it during the winter, then I'll record a second video. Now, the other thing is KingCamp has also sent me a wood stove to go with this. We're in a full fire ban. I can't even show you that. Okay, I could show it to you, but I can't light it up. So I'm going to hold on to that for a little while longer until the fire ban is finished for the year, and then I can light that stove up out here. Then we'll put the two of them together in a video where I'm actually camping in it. All right, let's get started. All right, as far as specifications for the tent go, I'll give you more detail, obviously, when we get it set up. But I just wanted to go through things like the weight and the size. So right now, as this package stands, it is 23 inches long and about 7.5 inches in diameter. I say about because, of course, it depends on how tightly you pack it and that type of thing. I'll come back to that comment in a moment. When it's set up at its highest, it'll be 5'6", not especially tall, and 10'5" in diameter. So that's the basics. Now, it is made of cotton canvas, which is cool. Part of the reason why I was interested in it. Now, this cotton canvas is actually a polycotton. It's not 100% pure cotton canvas. It is treated with a water repellency and a fire retardant. So those things are quite nice as well. And it does, of course, have a stove jack. Now, the way I've got it packaged, this is the floor, or the floor, ground sheet, whatever you want to call it. It is separate from the tent proper, meaning you can use it or not use it at your discretion. You can use it without the tent if you have a reason for using it like that. It is a bathtub style, meaning there's a small wall that goes around the outside that stands up to prevent water from coming in where your sleeping area is. The reason it's strapped to the outside is, like a lot of tents, sleeping bags, tarps, you name it, easy enough to put it, or easy enough to get out of the bag, but it's hard to put all back in. So I struggled to get that back in. Fortunately, there are a couple of compression straps on the outside of the sack, which means why not just strap it to the outside and then you don't have to worry about it. I mean, it is the first thing you're going to get out and set up on the ground anyway. So that's the materials, the dimensions. So what I'll do now is I'm going to set it up on the ground. I am going to start it in regular speed, but when it comes to the full assembly, it takes a bit of time, of course. I'll speed the camera up so you get an idea of just what I'm doing. I'll stop it. We'll go through some details. All right, just before I start hauling things out of the carry bag that come with it, a couple things that I've learned from experience is you have to have room for this, quite obviously. The ground sheet is 10.5 inches or 10.5 feet in diameter, but you need room beyond that for the guidelines that to set the tent up. So give yourself a bit of room. I'm going to center it right here, and that'll give me plenty of room for guidelines, at least I hope. It has in the past when I do it that way. All right, let's take the ground sheet off. So the ground sheet is the first thing to spread out, and I'll throw that out. Now, it is a bit windy here, so hopefully it doesn't make too much noise on the microphone. This is a bit of work, of course, but not much. and start staking it down. I have discovered that I like doing this at opposite corners first. That ground is like cement from the drought. There's no give to the ground at all. This just doing it like this, opposite sides, just kind of helps keep the shape when you're finished. I don't know that it's necessary. It's just a thing I found that helps for me. So there. All right, so I have the floor set up on the ground. You can see the bathtub sides. I'll give you close-ups in a little bit. They're raised so that you don't get water coming in because, of course, it's not connected direct. The tent proper is not directly connected to the floor. Again, giving you that option. Put the tent pegs in my pocket. Get the tent out. And I think I'll go silent for a few minutes and speed the video up while I do this part. All right, so the tent is staked out just out beyond the floor tent stakes. It does take a lot of tent stakes to do this, quite obviously. So the next step is to put the center pole up. I'm going to show you the center pole. Now, I find that it is worthwhile not trying to get the set of the tent pegs perfect the first time. Get the tent set up, put the center pole in, then go back and readjust. So it just keeps things a little bit more centered if you do it that way, a little bit easier. All right, so the tent pole is a single unit, aluminum section. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, shock corded together, and capped at both ends for protection of the floor and the peak of the tent as well. I have the door oriented on this side of the tent. Walk into the center of the tent, find the peak, and there's a spot on the floor that gives you orientation to where the tent pole goes. All right, that's the basic assembly. Now I do have to stake it out, or the guy lines out. So quickly, I think off camera, I will stake the guy lines out and then we can get into this a bit more detail. All right, I have everything staked out. I took the camera off the tripod. We're going to do a walk around. I'll show you the features on the outside and then we'll get inside and see what kind of space it has and what it has for features on the inside. So just an example, that's not a good example. We'll go to the other side where the sun is on it. First off, let's stop at the door. So the door is a single flap. You can see how high it goes. Yep, that's to the top of the zipper. I've rolled it back. There are 2 tie-outs on the door. There are Velcro down the storm flap that covers over the zipper. Is that going to show up? Yep, there it is. Okay, there's Velcro there as well. So it helps to keep any rain or wind or anything from entering through the zipper. There are 2 vents at the top with standoffs to help keep them open. One on the other side as well. Yeah, this is a better side to look at. First, you can see the KingCamp logo down there. This is the stove jack. I think I have to get at it from the side. So the stove jack has a flap on the outside, which is closed down by Velcro. It allows you to roll it up and expose the fiberglass over patch where the stove jack would come through, or the stove pipe would come through the stove jack there. Very simple, very common. Guy line attachment points. Guy lines are simple, old school. They a little bit more work to adjust them than some of the more modern ones, but not bad at all. Probably a great place to show the storm flaps. You can see the flaps around the bottom. They'll help keep rain out in snowy conditions. You can even pack them down with some snow to keep the cold air from coming out underneath, if that's what you want to do, or partially. The other stove or ventilation at the top. All right, let's go around and get inside the tent. So getting inside of the tent does require you to bend over. It's not so much that you kneel, but you know, it's not full height, obviously. You're not going to be able to stand up inside of this tent, but it has a fair amount of room. And I just want to show you can probably see the gap around the base of the tub flooring. Depending on how centered it gets, I'm on average 8 inches or so away from the wall. Probably have everything just a little bit tighter as well. You can also include, well, you can actually roll back this other flap. It's part of the door, so you could roll 2 sides back if you want to get a much wider open, almost like an open tarp concept there as well. Stove jack on the inside. Look towards the ceiling. And there are some tie-outs in the corners if you want to buy the optional bug netting, so that you can put a bug netting in here and use it in bug season, obviously. All right, now there's just a couple of comments I want to make while I'm inside here so you can see this. First off, you see what's happening here on the floor. There's a little square patch of sewn-in material on the base floor. By the way, the floor is taped. You can see all the seams are taped for waterproofness. I worry that is going to poke through. Now, the bottom of the pole is rounded. It hasn't poked through yet, but I have put little pieces of foam underneath it just to help protect it. There is an older version of this tent, I didn't see it on the website anymore, that actually had a little collar open. So it was open to the ground, and the collar would come up and then would have a cord lock to give you some protection there. They've done away with that, and here's where you can see that's probably where the collar was sewn in. So my recommendation is find something you can throw in the bag that has maybe a round, small piece of wood, plastic, whatever, just to distribute the pressure point over the bottom of the floor a little bit. And actually, the same goes for the top. It's kind of pushing up into the very apex of it, and I worry again that it's just a bit too much tension. Now it depends on how tightly you tie everything down, of course, but there's a tendency in windy conditions you want to get everything tied down tight. So a little piece of foam like in a cone shape over the top of that would be helpful. By the way, you can probably see the hanging hook for a lantern up there if you want to use a lantern hang inside of here. So there is room. Obviously this is where there's the stove jack. Here's where the stove would go, somewhere near the door, of course. And with the stove in, you'd be hard-pressed to put 2 people in there. I think you would have room for 2 people, but comfortably, this is kind of a 1-person to 2-person tent with the stove. Easily 2 people, maybe even 3, if you were to not use the stove. All right, let's move back outside. I've got a few closing comments before we wrap this video up. All right, a few closing comments for the Torino Tipi style hot tent from the company KingCamp. So as I mentioned, I have slept out here in the backyard in an attempt to get used to the tent, see what kind of space I had in it, see how much work it was going to be setting up. It is worthwhile. Well, actually, you should always do that at home before you end up out in the woods or at a campground or wherever it is you're going to use it, just so that you know the intricacies and any issues you may run up against and efficiencies in terms of setting it up. So I have slept out here in a few times. I've also left it out in the rain. Now, the rain just beads off of this, so there is a durable water repellency to the cotton canvas on the outside that does seem to repel the rain. Now, of course, that's aided by the fact that it has such steep sides on it. That's one of the benefits of a teepee style tent, is it resists snow loading. There's no flat surfaces. Being very steep, snow's going to run off, rain's going to run off just as easily. So that did help. I can't say how long the waterproofing is going to last. However, when you think about it, if this is meant to be a winter camping tent and not a 4-season camping tent, then rain becomes less of an issue. Yes, it can rain during the winter. We have freezing ice rainstorms here, quite frequently. But if that were to happen to you, I think you would find that it would not soak through the tent and cause great issues. What I can't say is how much it stretches the cotton canvas, because that's of course an issue with cotton, is that it will stretch as it gets wet and gets heavy. So that's something I haven't been able to test for. That will be part of my longer term review, we'll say. So there is that about it. Now, the downside of a TP tent, and this is just general, not anything specific to this, but TP tents in general, is, yeah, they're fine for one person. They get really kind of cramped for two people. And the reason is, despite that it's 10.5 feet in diameter, is how quickly the sides come together into the peak. So the usable space really starts 2 feet in from the edges. So you can't use the space right out to the very edge of the tent, because it comes right down to the ground there. If you're sleeping on an air mattress, and of course I would be, and maybe even a cot, the higher your sleep pad or sleep system is underneath you, the further you have to move towards the center to get the height that you need, so that you're not jamming your face up against the canvas on the inside. So just a couple thoughts for decisions on using it. I'm really happy I have this, to be honest. This is something I've wanted for a long time, and I am just dying to get it out in the winter and use it with that stove. Now, alternatively to the stove, the wood stove that KingCamp sent with me, I have a diesel heater and a battery, obviously, that I can use, so I don't have to depend on collecting enough wood or taking enough wood with me for the wood stove, and I can use it all night long, just turn the heat down. So that's another option, is I think this will work well with a diesel heater. You can plumb out the exhaust and the intake out 2 places on the tent if you want, and ensure fresh air, but plenty of heat at the same time. All right, as I mentioned, I do have to wait until it gets cold, and post-surgery and my recovery, we'll see just how well I do and if I can get it out this winter. It is certainly my desire to do so. If and when I do, I'll record my video using it, and then I'll bring that back to you. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments section. All the specifications and the links I have now will be in the video description. But until next time, get out and explore and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.